Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Umaya Haziq with metric number 268721. So today I would like to discuss why do I support GST in Malaysia. So first thing first, in my opinion, GST or goods and services tax must be implemented in Malaysia. This is because inflation has occurred in the economy due to the prolonged Russia-Ukraine conflict and the rampant COVID-19 outbreak, which has resulted in a decrease in Malaysia's state income. The Goods and Services Tax, or GST, is a reasonable proposal put forth by the government to maintain economic stability and guarantee the well-being of all citizens. According to the data I gathered online, GST is a fairer and more effective tax system that brings in much needed funds for government agencies. But there are also some issues that need to be resolved before reapplying the GST or goods and services tax in Malaysia. One of them is as evidenced by the government's announcement that it will reintroduce the goods and services tax or GST despite widespread concerns that citizens are prepared or or willing to pay the higher prices that will inevitably result from the new tax. For me, this is an example of egoist moral theory, a theory that emphasizes the happiness of the individual who are making the decisions. From the moral perspective itself, GST or goods and services tax can be considered good when the payment of tax made has a real impact that can be felt by the community and can be useful for the lives of many people. It is considered bad if GST or goods and services tax funds that have been paid but there is no progress for the country's economic recovery are even more sad. In fact, it only makes it worse for the people's economy, especially the lower middle class. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my name is Zhi Lin, machine number 277736. And from my view, I support that the good and service tax should be implemented. This is because USD is significant to our country as a whole. It is a fairer and more open tax system that supports job development and economic expansion. Because the GST is a consumption tax, only those who purchase goods and services are responsible for paying it. With effect from 1 April 2015, Malaysia replaced its sales and service tax regime with the GST in order to modernize its taxation system and enhance company efficiency. Compared to the former sales tax, which was also paid by enterprise, this makes it a more equal tax structure. Additionally, the GST would lessen the government reliance on income tax, which may be unpredictable and challenging to collect. GST is an important source of income for many nations. It may be used to pay for government initiatives, including infrastructure, healthcare, and education. With the help of GST, the overall tax burden on consumer and business may be reduced. Multiple countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom frequently employ them as a kind of taxation, which is the factual evidence that support my viewpoint. Besides, the return of the GST has also received support from a number of government members, including the MP who had previously criticized the implementation of the tax system. They now claim that the government can raise revenue with the reinstatement of the GST through the presentation of the revised 2023 budget, allowing it to fund additional development projects and initiatives. Based on the principle mentioned previously, GST may be examined from a utilitarian point of view. USD is only limited by consumers who purchase goods and services. This implies that those with higher incomes will pay a higher share of GST than those with lower incomes. It is important to remember that there are some negative aspects of GST. For example, it would result in increased cost for goods and service, which would negatively impact people with low incomes. To implement utilitarianism in the deployment of GST, they should be implemented in a way that minimize the adverse impact on low-income individuals and families. For instance, a low-income earner rebate or a tax-free threshold might be used to generate GST. Overall, I think that the GST is beneficial for Malaysia, and I support that the government to keep implementing it. That's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, a good day to everyone. My name is Megalah Thevi Chandra Segaren. My matrix number is 27990. So, based on the issues of GST, I partially agree with acceptance and implementing of GST. In my point of view, GST plays a crucial role in today's globalized world. It is one of the government's efforts to become a high-income nation. Moreover, GST is one of the parts which contribute to our negri by increasing the economic growth tremendously. There are some benefits to the implementing of a GST in our country. First and foremost, it enhances our living standard. The GST revenue might be put to use developing social infrastructure such as hospitals and other medical facilities, educational and also public facilities to further raise the level of living. Furthermore, GST also boosts international competitiveness. Due to the absence of GST on the exported goods and services and the ability to retrieve GST paid on the imports along the supply chain, Malaysia's export prices will become more competitive on the international market. In addition, it promotes increased transparency. For example, according to the current sales tax, the GST would be advantageous to customers since they would know upfront whether the things they purchase are taxable and how much they have to pay. Reintroducing the GST is supposed to increase further revenue, which will help control inflation and also lessen the financial burden of subsidies for general population. However, there are some reasons why I against re-implementation of GST. It is because the poor, low and middle income groups pay higher percentage of their income as GST compared to the high income groups due to the flat rate tax of GST. It will be unfair to those who are struggling to run their families with low incomes. The reason of paying GST is to boost our economic level, but yet the government simply wasting the money in unnecessary things. Based on the ideas I mentioned previously, GST can be looked at from utilitarian perspective. In this fact, to minimize their negative effects on low-income persons and families, utilitarianism should be used in the establishment of GST. For instance, a tax-free or low-income earner rebate could be utilized to produce GST. Only consumers who purchase goods and services are required to submit GST. This suggests that people with higher earnings will contribute a larger portion of GST than people with low incomes. It is critical to keep in mind that there can be some drawbacks to the GST. For example, it could lead to higher prices for goods and services which could harm to those with moderate incomes. Lastly, I hope contributing of GST towards our country will raise the economic level as well as the revenue to our country. That's all from me. Thank you.
My name is Nurhuda Nabilah Binti Suhaimi with matric number 280157. I personally agree and support the government to introduce GST as a better tax system. It is less bureaucratic, more effective, efficiency, and self-policing. Under the present SST, double taxes will be eliminated by GST. When compared to SST, the moral standard for this issue, consumers will pay fair prices for the majority of products and services. The second one is, if the implementation of the GST is to be well received by consumers, It has been agreed that some beneficial initiatives such as decreasing in revenue taxes to put more money in people's wallets and boost their purchasing power must be incorporated to the program in order to prevent poor and lower income consumers. And then there are three types of justice. The first one is distributive justice, retributive justice, and compensatory justice. For goods and service tax (GST), distributive justice is the most appropriate moral principle that could be applied to this issue. As stated by Hartman 2021, those who are similar in all respects that are pertinent to the kind of treatment in question should receive similar benefits and burdens. If there are differences in other non-relevant respects, and those who are different in pertinent respects should be treated differently. In proportion to their difference, to put it simply, the core principle of distributive justice is that those who are equal should be treated similarly, and those who are not should be treated unequally.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I beg to doctor and my fellow classmate. I'm Ainin and I will be stating my moral judgment on goods and services tax, also known as GST issue. I personally am not supporting GST being implemented in the current Malaysia economy right now after the pandemic breakout and with the uncertainty of what the future holds in the Russia-Ukraine wars. The stability of the country's economy and its people well-being should be made a top priority, and to do this, the government needs an immense amount of money to cover the necessary expenses such as financial aid or for the unfortunate, tax incentive, acquisition of vaccines, etc. I fully understand the benefits of the reintroduction of GST for Malaysians. However, are the people ready for this GST to be implemented again? This is the main concern in this issue that I was going to talk about. Okay, in Malaysia, the government's recent desire to restore the GST has been strongly opposed by a group of experts, as reported by Nizam 2023 in the New Straits Times. The expert, who includes economists and business analysts, feel that the GST should not be reinstituted until the government has tried every other strategy to raise revenue, such as increasing taxes on the wealthy or cutting government spending by removing waste, leakage and corruption. It is very unfair to the people if only the citizens are the ones paying while their government is wasting their hard-earned money on something that is unnecessary in the name of country development. In my opinion, the government should first put its effort into earning people's trust and reducing their burden by concentrating on boosting the economy and generating more jobs for them. Furthermore, retailers and other domestic industry will suffer poor growth due to firms suffering from lower sales of goods and services when everyone else is spending less. Additionally, when business struggles, some enterprises may eventually lay off some of their employees, which would then worsen the economy's general health. Given that domestic consumption is thought to be the engine of the economy, GST essentially killed the golden goose in an era of unreliable export due to a turbulent and uncertain global environment. This is viewed by Liu Qintong in 2017. The government administration and some economists must comprehend why Malaysia despises GST so much. Malaysia requires an economic plan that benefits millions of average citizens and eventually leads to sustained growth. And GST is unfortunately not the answer to Malaysian economic problems. So to sum it up, for now, I think it is better for the government to search for a new alternative instead of implementing GST again, as it is seem unfair not only to the people but also towards the businesses.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Eina Athirah Binti Norazman and my metric number is 281837. So back to the issue of the GST, I partially support this issue to the statement that GST has proven to be beneficial for the Malaysian government in terms of widening its tax bases and increasing the country revenue. This additional revenue allows the government to fund essential development programs that benefit the country. Moreover, GST also brings advantages for the people. By implementing GST, it will allow people to pay more fairly for most products and services without any double taxation. However, Even the GST may have its benefit for the government and people, it raises moral concerns due to its impact on certain group of people. I believe that the implementation of the GST is quite not fair from a moral perspective, as it places burden on some individuals while benefiting the country. This can be seen when GST is a tax that is applied to all taxable individuals, regardless of their income levels. This means that people that come from T20, M40 and B40 income levels are required to pay the same amount of taxes. The GST can be seen as an unfair and burdensome tax as it is significantly affect those with lower income. So, according to the ethical theory that I have learned, I think this issue is related to moral relativism. This is because there will be some people who believe that paying the GST is good for both the country and the people. But there are still also other people who think that the government engaging in thoughtless behavior by implying the GST without considering those people from lower income level. So, I think the GST is not really fair because the implementation of the GST does not really consider those people. Nevertheless, while recognizing the benefits that the government and the people obtain from the GST, I propose that the government should revise the tax system to lessen the burden on individuals. This can be achieved through various measures that prioritize economic and social objectives. For example, the government can rationalize the GST rates by examining the rates applied to different commodities and services. By ensuring consistency with economic and social objectives, the government can lower tax rates on essential goods and services, such as food, healthcare, and education. This will make these necessities more affordable and reduce the financial strain on lower income households. Additionally, public education and awareness play a crucial role in enlightening people about the benefit and impact of the GST. By clearing up misunderstanding and ensuring that individuals are informed about their rights and obligations under the tax system, compliance can be improved. It is important for the government to communicate effectively with the public, addressing their concern and clarifying the rationale behind the GST. I firmly believe that the suggestion to revise the GST structure is not only relevant, but also based on a sound and defensible of moral principle. While the complete removal of the GST may not be practical due to its status as a value-added tax, revising its structure is an ethical way to address the concern of the people without compromising the overall revenue needs of the government. The government must carefully evaluate the implication of action, looks at the fundamental principles and values, and consider the viewpoints and interests of all people to change the GST structure morally. By meeting all requirements needed, the government can ensure the overall revenue needs of the government are met while also addressing the concern of the people. Alright, that's all from us. Thank you for listening.